Hi, this is Mark, and you're listening to Sports, Politics, and Occasionally Cats, SPOC. Welcome to our podcast today, where you will learn interesting and funny stories about sports, of course, and occasionally politics, but more importantly, stories about wonderful cats in Emmett's life. We're so glad you're here. You can follow us on all the Instagram sites and Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and wherever you get podcasts. Remember, sports, politics, and occasionally cats. Hi, welcome back to
Sports, Politics, and Occasionally Cats.
We're a little rusty, Emmett. It's been a while since we've done a podcast. We've had kind of a busy summer, haven't we?
Yep.
Yeah, June was pretty hectic. We had graduation and getting new work schedules in place for you. So it's been kind of a hectic month.
Yeah.
But we want to welcome people back to
Sports, Politics, and Occasionally Cats.
Yeah. So today we thought we'd do a special session, right? Because we finished up school together and we took an environmental science class. And we've been talking a lot about that the past few weeks since you graduated, which congratulations. It was good seeing you walk across the stage. But we talked a lot about how much we learned in our environmental science class. So usually we do sports and occasionally cats, but we kind of steer away from politics sometimes, and really it's current events. So we thought today would be a great episode to talk about current events and the environment and some of the things that are important to us, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about when you think about the environment? What are some of the things that are important to you?
I think about clean air,
Okay.
clean water, and being protected from harmful chemicals.
That's right. Those are three important things because the air we breathe is really important. And if it's not clean, it can affect our breathing and asthma and other heart disease and things like that. And certainly we need clean water, keep it safe or make it useful for drinking water and all the other things we use water for. So that's important. But certainly keeping toxic chemicals out of the environment is really important. So that's, things we'll cover in today's episode. So what kind of questions do you have for me, Emmett, when we talk about the environment?
So what is something that you wish our friends, family, and neighbors would understand about toxic chemicals?
Well, Emmett, that's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked that question. But one of the things that's really tough, it's hard to keep the air and the water clean. There's a lot of work we can do, but we've known a lot about those efforts for a number of years. But I wish people really understood how challenging it is to protect our environment from toxic chemicals. And keeping them out of the environment is really protecting everybody. And, one of the things is we reflect on the summer and we're leading into July. We had Father's Day and Men's Health Month. And, certainly every Father's Day, I think about my role as a dad and how important it is for me to help protect my children and my grandchild now and do those things. And when I think of toxic chemicals, you just realize how many of them are out there in the environment and how they get into people's bodies. And so, I know a lot of people, our friends, neighbors, and family probably don't wake up every morning thinking about toxic chemicals. And even I don't, but I do try to think about choices I make throughout the day in terms of what we eat, how we package things, what we buy and use to try and find ways to keep chemicals from getting unnecessarily into our bodies. And one of the problems is that, people don't understand the science that goes into understanding about all these chemicals. Remember in our environmental science class, who did we talk about that was really interested in chemicals and first helped raise our awareness?
Rachel Carson.
Yeah. And what'd she talk about?
She was about preventing chemicals from harming us and wildlife, especially the chemical DDT, which was very toxic and killed birds.
Yep. It made bird eggs shells really thin and they weren't able to reproduce. And you've heard me tell stories about my dad and his work as a game agent for the Fish and Wildlife Service, how he worked on understanding chemical pollution on its impact on eagles and other birds of prey. He did a lot of work trying to help understand that DDT was really behind all the problems. So for me, that was one thing that kind of inspired my interest in the environment, just watching my dad and all the interest he took in the natural world around us, and trying to find ways to protect things like the eagle and help bring those back. And he did a whole lot of other work on other species. So that really inspired me to really want to try and find ways to keep it out of the environment. But, the problem, back to your original question about what would our friends and neighbors know, is, it's really important to understand what's going on in terms of rules and regulations around protecting our chemicals, protecting us from toxic chemicals, understanding the pathways in which those get into our bodies, and really taking time to make sure that we do all we can to try and protect us from toxic chemicals. And, I mentioned as a dad, I do some things to try and protect you and your brothers and the grandbaby and all of us from any unnecessary contamination. It really, from my time and working around the environment, I always knew there were a lot of scientists back working on finding what chemicals were out there, what their impact was on us, kind of like DDT and the eagles and Rachel Carson, right? Yeah. So it's really important for me to know too that there are people out there working to protect us from unnecessary toxic chemical pollution. And when those go away, it just makes my job as a dad and a granddad, it makes my job as a grandfather and father that much more difficult, because there's not people out there trying to make sure we don't get unnecessarily exposed to toxic chemicals. So it's really important to me. So Emmett, we talked about a lot of things we do to try and keep you safe and everybody in our family. When you're out playing Y Challenger baseball, what your mom and I always say to you, don't slide into home. And why is that?
Because I play baseball on AstroTurf, and that could be really bad.
Bad for you because you slide into home on artificial surface and scratch up your knees, and you get your skin broken, and then there's who knows what's in all that plastic on the field. But it's partly too, we just want to make sure you're safe. And that's really a lot of what we're talking about today. So any other questions you can think about? I mean,
So if you were talking to customers at the ice cream shop or in the bleachers at a Y Challenger game, what would you tell other parents?
Well, I kind of touched, that's a great question, Emmett. A couple things. One is, first and foremost of all, be aware of what's going on around you and take time to understand how chemicals are getting into our environment, and know that there's a lot of contamination is out there and where it kind of comes from. Like we get a lot of mercury and lead and other things they call heavy metals that are real toxic to our body. They can cause immune problems and nervous system disorders. And a lot of that comes from coal-fired power plants. So I'd want people to understand that, some of the pollutants and threats we face and our children face, where they come from. And then, for people that are fishermen, like your grandpa likes to fish, doesn't he? He used to go on the big fishing trips all over. Yeah. And all the people that are, that like to go fishing or anglers, one thing that the states do with information they get about what's in the environment, particularly toxic chemicals, is issue fish advisories. So I'd tell somebody in the stands at your game is, if you like to go fishing, pay attention to those fish advisories, because we talked in environmental science. Remember bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Remember, was that on the test we took? I don't remember. I think it was, but remember what those were?
No, it's been a little bit.
Now that you've graduated, you don't have to care about that stuff. You're moving on. Well, it's all about how toxic chemicals can build up in our bodies. So how much we can accumulate. If you eat fish that's contaminated with mercury, it'll get in your body and in your tissue. And then, we remember how we talked about the little fish eats the plankton, and then the big fish eats the little fish, and then grandpa catches the big fish and comes home and grandma cooks it. Well, all the way up that food chain, if people are eating fish that are contaminated, it can lead to contamination they can get. So I'd want people to just be very mindful and take the time to learn about pathways for chemicals, toxic chemicals getting into their body through eating food that might be contaminated, or just knowing that there are things like forever plastics out there. Have you heard about forever plastics?
Yeah.
What do you know about them?
That they can cause all kinds of like health issues.
Right. So some of the things they've been related to are like nervous system problems. They can possibly lead to cancer, causes for cancer. They can last in your body. How do you know why they call them forever chemicals? Let me turn it into a question.
Because they'll last forever in your body.
Right. Because once they get in there, they never go away. That's why they've called them forever chemicals. And it's not just in our bodies, but it's also in the environment, because they're so hard to get out of the environment. And unlike a lot of things, forever chemicals, they don't break down. They last there forever. So those are pretty tough things to have to deal with. So it's really important that we get those out. So I would tell people about forever chemicals. But what else, Emmett, since we're talking on the environment? I mean, your grandpa liked to go fishing. My dad liked to work in the environment and protect it. Your grandpa did some of the same work when he worked for the government as well.
So you spent your entire career at the EPA. Why should a dad in the Midwest care about EPA rules? That's
a good question, Emmett. Couple reasons. I kind of touched on one already. Some of the rules that are important at EPA, they had a rule that's now being rolled back or eliminated or taken off the books, however you want to describe it, that would have controlled the amount of lead and mercury and other pollutants getting into the air, which gets into the water. We talked about that, remember, in environmental science, how they come out of the air into the water. And when they get into the water, what happens? They get into
the fish supply,
then the food supply. So I'd want people to know about that. I'd want them to know too that, in the Midwest, it's a very important agricultural part of the country, and that we need to do things to make sure we have good sustainable agriculture. But we also need to be careful that we're not putting unnecessary pollutants and toxic chemicals into the environment, and that if we know the risk are greater than the benefit, that we take action to get those out. Because things like PFOA and PFOS, those forever chemicals, as I said, they can cause cancer and other immune system problems, developmental issues, a lot of other health concerns. So we need to be really focused on getting those out. And unfortunately, right now, there are some efforts to slow down or delay the implementation of rules that would help keep that out of our drinking water. I mean, do you ever think about a glass of water that you pour to drink and what might be in it?
No.
Why not? Because you think what?
Because we assume that after the water goes through the purification system and gets returned back to our taps, that we assume it's clean.
Right. We assume it's clean, and that people who know about the risk of chemicals that are coming into our water system are taking action to get it out of our water. But right now, there are like 73 million homes that are getting sources of drinking water that may have levels of forever chemicals that are way too high, above limits that are protective of people's health. And that's not a good thing. So let's wrap up our little environmental conversation. What if, as I said, part of my passion for the environment is just wanting to leave the planet a little bit cleaner, a little bit better for future generations. Kind of fits into being a dad, and for that matter, being a parent, and how we always want to help protect our children as best we can, and how we need to rely on government scientists to help us understand the risk we face. But if there's one thing you could tell our listeners about the environment and why it's important to us, what would you say?
It's very important to give a hoot and not pollute.
Oh, wait a minute. That's your green Santa Claus shirt. I think we took that probably from, anyway, every Christmas, Dad and Granddad goes out and buys green Santa presents. Do you like the green Santa presents?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this year, everybody got a Give a Hoot, Don't Pollute T-shirt for Christmas.
And also, we need to remember we only get one planet, and once that planet's gone, it's too late. It's gone.
Yeah.
So we need to take actions now, so that Earth can be habitable for several more and dozens more and a lot more generations to come.
That's very good, Emmett. That's great. That's looking forward. Thank you. That's wonderful. Okay. So we've done a little bit of politics, current events, as we like to say, and talked about the environment. Thank you for asking about that. Again, as you know, I'm pretty passionate about the environment, and I'm doing it for you and all our family and friends and neighbors. But we'll do a little bit of sports. The Royals, never mind. Let's not talk about them.
Chiefs,
it's a little bit early for that. Yeah, we'll see. Sporting Kansas City. Well, they're not playing because of the World Cup. The World Cup is here. Yeah, it's been kind of a zoo in town, but it's good to see a bunch of people from all over the world.
So which country do you want to win it all?
Well, I mean, I'm a proud American, and as we're leading into the 4th of July and our 250th anniversary, wouldn't it be great if the USA could make a long, deep run?
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for the U.S. I don't care that much who wins, as I'm not the world's biggest soccer fan. But I personally feel like it'd be cool for right after America's 250th birthday that the U.S. wins the title. I think that'd be pretty cool if those things happened in the same year.
That would be kind of cool. And I guess I've got a little soft spot for England. I mean, the team is staying just a mile down the road from us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're down at Meadowbrook Park.
Is that why there's all those good luck England songs?
Yes, that's why they're all over the neighborhood. Everybody's supporting Team England. But they're kind of like our Chiefs and our Royals. The Royals went, from 1985 to 2015, 30 years between winning the World Series. The Chiefs went, 50 years, almost a lifetime between their first Super Bowl and their second. And England hasn't won the World Cup, I think, since like 1948. So,
wow.
Don't you think they deserve a break?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe they can get a little bit of that Kansas City mojo going on and break long droughts of not winning the big one. What do you think?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good, right? So now that we're back, what do you think, Emmett? It took us a while to get here. We had just a lot of scheduling and things, but we kind of got our life kind of organized now. So we'll try and do some more regular takes on sports,
politics, and occasionally cats.
And what is our goal?
Please like and subscribe so that we can become as popular as the Kelsey brothers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Hey, this is Mark, and thanks for joining us today on Sports, Politics, and Occasionally Cats. SPOC. What a great show we had today, Emmett. Those were wonderful stories. I can't wait to follow up and listen again on all the usual sites where you get podcasts. Go to Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you find your podcast. And it's SPOC. Sports, Politics, and Occasionally Cats. Wow, that's a great, funny story we had about that cat today, Emmett. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to hearing you on our next show.